So if you are not good with child abuse, if you're not good hearing about Munchausen's, if you're not okay hearing about religious trauma, things like that, this probably isn't for you, but here we go. So around the age of 10 and 9 and 10, I'm showing signs of emotional problems. Again, I'm being left alone a lot. I have no socialization skills whatsoever. I'm constantly being told I'm evil and that the world is going to end, and I better hope that God forgives me for all the horrible things I've done, which include me wanting my mother, me eating, and me being quote-unquote rebellious by being a tomboy. Um, so, and I have DID, I have dissociative identity disorder. My grandmother begins to see emotional problems. I'm going to preface this by saying that when we did move from Harrison to Tyler, my grandmother saw that I was losing it. Everything changed. Everything in my world changed. So she immediately took me to a child psychologist. And apparently what I revealed about my mother's abusive behavior triggered that doctor enough to say, listen, I will treat her for severe depression and anxiety. Because I had no fingernails and I had no lips. I still pick my lips and bite my fingernails out of nervousness. But you have to keep her mother away from her. Her mother is dangerous for her. Her mother is going to be her undoing. But my grandmother said, we're not going to do that. Her mother is her mother because God wants her to be her mother. So we're not going to go against God. And I didn't go into counseling until much later. So once again, it's no, it is the way it is because God wants it that way. And that's terrifying. If your dad's beating you, it's because God's trying to teach you a lesson. If somebody, God forbid, is sexually assaulting you, it's because God's teaching you a lesson. That kind of mentality is terrifying. And it's scary and it upsets me that at 4 years old, a psychologist, a trained, mandated reporter, heard that and let them take me, knowing I wasn't going to be adopted. I wasn't going to be adopted by my grandparents or grandparented out or adopted out, and that my mother, who was an active, violent member of the family doing damage to me, was going to be allowed near me. But love Texas. So there were signs, but around 9, 10, I really began acting out. I was so frustrated. It was, why would you do this? Why would you do something this stupid? Like, forget to read your book or whatever for school. And I would go, well, I was playing around. No, do not justify it. Why did you choose to disobey and be disobedient and be evil? I couldn't understand that. And that questioning of, don't give me an excuse. Why did you do it? Would continue until I eventually left the house. But there was no right answer. It was, wow, the yard really looks bad. You know what would be nice? If we had a child who was grateful and would actually help with things around here. Well, I'm doing my schoolwork. Yep, you know what, I'll tell you what. I'll take my money and hire someone to do it because I can't rely on anybody. None of my children ever helped me. And it became a game where no matter what I did, it wasn't right. If I mowed the yard, if I did all the weeding, and she had a massive garden all the way around the house, it was a mess. It didn't matter if I cleaned up the garage, it didn't matter what I did. I either did it with the wrong spirit or I did it wrong. And my homework, I loved to read. And I loved learning. But I had such bad test anxiety, like no lips. I couldn't sleep for days, even as a very young child. Like, I would go days without sleeping, just anxiety, just... So I began to get frustrated with having to wake up every day. And my grandmother would play those mind games with me, where, well, you know what, if you just tried, it wouldn't be a problem. And on the outside, It looked like I was the emotionally disturbed ruffian living in a house with a very loving, wonderful Jessica Fletcher-esque grandmother and a hardworking grandfather. And I tried so hard, but I could never measure up. And there was no joy in learning the way they took it. And the way they took it was, yeah, you can tell me, can you tell me what you learned? No, it was if you can't pass the test and get an A, then you did not take care. You didn't try. And that means you didn't love me or respect me enough to try. So that's a sin. And it became very, very terrifying to wake up every day. So, and the only thing I could do, I knew I couldn't touch anybody. I knew I wasn't allowed to touch anybody. But I would scream like, I don't understand what you want. I don't understand. Because basic small tasks became so hard. Even if I did it and I did it right, I wouldn't do it with the right spirit, and then I was still evil, and I didn't understand. And I had DID, so and I constantly had this almost like imaginary, but it was an imaginary person I was talking to all the time because, no, I'm not talking to you. You're going to ruin my joy, and God gave me joy today, and you're not going to steal it. Satan, get behind me. Get behind me. You don't know what it's like until you've had an old woman scream that in your face. When you demand to know why wasn't my essay right when I did all the curriculum and I tried so hard. It was a mess. And nobody saw this but me. CPS wasn't coming in to check on me. The state board wasn't coming in to check on me. No one was monitoring me. And my doctor basically saw me if I was seriously sick, and that was it. So I didn't have anyone looking out for me. And I didn't feel safe reporting to anybody at church because I knew they were all in this club together. So my grandmother, saw that I was having, like, real, she called them behavioral problems. She's like, why are you always talking to somebody? Why are you always talking to somebody? There's nobody there. And I finally just said, Gather, is there somebody there? Okay, there's somebody there. And they talked to me because they talked to me because, apparently somebody wants to talk to me. Because I was alone so much around the age of, 9 and 10. They would start leaving me for hours upon hours alone, and I was expected to do chores, to do my homework, have the house clean, everything by the time they got back, and the minute it wasn't, it was over for me. So I would just talk to myself all day long. I see this kind of shadow shape on one side. Turns out apparently alternate personalities, who knew? And so my grandmother said, I think you're really disturbed. I'm going to take you to a doctor. And I said, okay, fine, let's go to counseling. She took me to one counselor. Her name is Suzanne Bryant. And I'm saying this because this was the only woman who ever fought for me. She was the only one who ever straight shot with Betty and said, you got to get her away from this violence. You got to get her away from her mother. And you have got to be more gentle with her. She is very breakable. She's eager to please. And the minute I started talking with this child psychologist, who was wonderful, and I miss her every day, and I wish I could get in contact with her. The minute she said, you cannot have her with her mother, it is not good. Again, going against God. So my grandmother pulled me away. And I wasn't allowed to see Suzanne Bryant anymore. And I don't think Suzanne ever thought it was me. But, Dr. Suzanne Bryant was the only person for years that would actually communicate with me on my level and understood and did play therapy, which to this day I find still is it works better for me. I know it sounds stupid and childish, but it works better for me. I've never found anyone who will do it since. And so my grandmother started bouncing me from one doctor to the next. Elaine Bryant asked, have you tried an ADHD medicine for her? Because she is we tried that. I got seriously sick. I have a very, very sensitive very sensitive system. But as soon as she said something she didn't like, next doctor. And I was bounced around from counselors and doctors for years.